Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and I am joined today on tape, also in person, well, I'd say on phone, with Robin Bennett, founder of Start Software, who's been a presenter here many times on our webinar. Today, we're going to be showing off a really cool thing that Robin built called ecoScribe. I'm going to basically, he's given us a series of little videos that I'm going to play for you right now. And if you've got questions, just type into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Also, as a reminder, if at any point you have questions, you can always send them to guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. Quick caveat, sometimes when we play videos, these for some reason on some machines, the sound or the video may not come through. Try dropping off, logging back in again. If it still doesn't work for you, there will be a recording of the whole thing available at the end of the presentation. So off we go.
Hi Dave, sorry we can't be with you in person this week, but our developers that work on this product work in a completely different time zone to us and to you, so it was going to be very difficult to do a live presentation with you for this week's webinar. But we've recorded some videos here which explain what we've been working on for a new product called ecoScribe and how the whole of the Alpha infrastructure has come together to deliver this product for us, which is going down really well. So ecoScribe is a new software product that we've launched into a market, and a market that we've not explored before. This is ecological consultancy. So people that are analyzing, coming out and inspecting and surveying and analyzing the situation for ecological concerns, primarily before building work is undertaken. So if I just scroll down, this is the website here at ecoscribe.online. You'll see that what we're about here is reducing the report writing time for these consultants that work in this industry, producing high quality reports using AI and increasing people's productivity. So let's just see what it is we're trying to do. So it's different specific types of report that a builder or a developer or a council or a big organization would ask a consultancy to do for them in order to know whether it's okay to do some building work or some development work. For example, in the UK, bats are a protected species. So if you're going to work in the roof space of a building where there are roosting bats, then you have to take special care and you may not have the permission to do the work at all. So a bat activity survey is something that an ecological consultancy might undertake. These first two are much more sort of detailed and significant, and I'll show you one of these in a minute. These are much more sort of wide, a much more wider scope in terms of what they're reporting on. This roost one here, this preliminary roost assessment, is one to do with, we've got some bats there. There could be bats, could be birds as well. So if you've got a very rare species of bird that's roosting in an area, like I say, a roof space or under the eaves of a roof, then you would need a report to establish what types of bird they are and what mitigating work that you could do so that you didn't disturb them when you did your building work. So that's what ecoScribe is. It's a means of automating and improving the productivity of the work that ecological consultants do. They're doing it by working offline with a mobile app. Now, the mobile app in this case is Alpha TransForm. So we've built the data capture forms for the reports in TransForm, and I'll show you what they look like in a moment. The reports themselves are then automated once the data is uploaded. So we've got a whole templating process that generates the reports live from the data, which will show you how we did that. And we can also build custom templates for people too, in case that their reports aren't exactly the same as the sort of the standard, or people want to incorporate custom features or their own logos and things. So that's what we're about. Let's just look at the software itself. By the way, the website, it's been a long time since we've built websites by hand. This might be of use to people watching if they're thinking about building a product like this, a SaaS product, software as a service product, which is what ecoScribe is. You need a website to go with it, obviously. All of the big domain companies now have really good website builders. This one's actually from GoDaddy, which we do think is very good. So let's have a look at the product itself. So I've just logged in. We start off with a dashboard that shows how many clients, how many sites, how many quotes, how many jobs are in there. We haven't just focused on the reporting side. We've actually done this as an end-to-end system. So within ecoScribe, a consultancy can raise a quote to send to their client. They can book a site in, they can book a job in, that would be a survey, as well as actually being able to produce the report. So there's a little dashboard here. There's some getting started information. So if you're just logging in for the first time, how do you create your customer? How do you create your first site? How do you create your first quote? Then we've got a menu down the left-hand side, normal sort of alpha layout here. We can go straight to the different things. Now, if I go to the jobs, this, by the way, is deployed on Alpha Cloud. So that's another part of the Alpha infrastructure, built using Alpha Anywhere. There's the third part of the Alpha infrastructure. So this is an Alpha Anywhere built system, which uses Alpha TransForm for the data capture and uses Alpha Cloud to deploy. So it's using all three parts of the Alpha infrastructure there to put it all together. So if we look at this job, this is one we got some test data in for. And we look at the forms for this one. So these are the transform forms that are linked back to job 211. Here I've got some data from Lucas that he's completed. We'll be meeting Lucas on the next video. Here's the data that's actually been typed in on the mobile. So you can see it's quite a lot of data, quite a complex form this. Lots of repeating groups, lots of different types of fields. We'll go into that in some detail in a moment. I can also actually show you the form filler which we've integrated into here. Now the form filler, it's just double checking that I've logged in, will actually show us the data exactly as I would be seeing it on my TransForm on my phone. And I can actually edit the data here as well, so I can actually complete the information, again, just as I would be on my phone. So here we've got a setup section, so this is all about the survey that's been undertaken. The name and address, the grid reference, dates, report reference numbers. Desk work, that's information that has to be done before you go out on site for this particular type of work. So they have to gather information from records and from maps before they go out. So this is all completed here. Things like license numbers to show that they're allowed to work. What species of bats they're looking, in this case, bats or other animals that they're looking for, why they might be going to look. They've got different licenses here. Here we have, in this case, some consultation that they've picked up from Natural England, which is a body that oversees this in the UK. And then we've got more areas here with different types of information. Here we've got sort of like choices here for direction, so north, northwest, west, southwest, etc. This is repeating groups. As you can see, there's lots of these. These are statutory sites. You can have unlimited statutory sites. Priority habitats, same idea. So this is all filled out before they go. And then the survey itself, so the work they're doing when they're out on site is all in this section. So we've got a date and time. We've got weather conditions, wind conditions, temperature, how many buildings there were, how many habitats. So this is, again, a repeating group. So each habitat can be recorded separately. Lots of fields here, nicely laid out. We do think TransForm does a very good looking data capture form. Only got one habitat in this case. The protected species that they've come across. And we've got sections here, so breeding birds, bats, badgers, hedgehogs, reptiles, etc., etc., etc. So a complex form here. And in the next video, when Lucas is joining me, we'll have a look at how we actually created these using TransForm Form Designer. And then after the survey's been done, there's a post-survey section where you can complete information after the event, and then generate a summary of what's been captured. And this actually uses AI. So we've covered this off in a previous webinar, Dave, actually, so you might want to refer back to that in the notes of this webinar. But we've plugged in ChatGPT's power into the back end of this, so that once you've captured all the information about the survey while you're on site, you can use AI to generate a summary, which is what's actually appearing here, to save having to handwrite it. So there you go. So that's a little overview of ecoScribe and how the data that's collected on site looks when you pull it back into the system. I'll wrap this video up now, and then we'll start talking to Lucas and see how he actually built the forms using TransForm. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Robin. We're going to go on now to our next presenter.
Writing up the results of ecological surveys can be time-consuming and repetitive. Right now, you're probably approaching report writing like this: requesting records and designated site searches from the local records office, heading to the site, conducting the survey, jotting down notes, and taking photos of habitats and protected species. Then, you spend hours turning those paper notes and photos into a polished report for your client. What if there was a way to collect the information, but not spend all that time writing reports? Imagine not being tied to your desk for so long. You could be out doing the next survey, right? That's why we created ecoScribe at Start Software. With ecoScribe, you still need to do your searches, but you'll enter the summary information directly into the ecoScribe mobile app. On-site, use the intelligent forms in the app to capture site data and snap all the pictures you need. Once back at your desk, log into ecoScribe and generate the report. In seconds, your report is generated with all the right information and pictures in place, saving you hours of desk work. Now, you can get out to the next survey without the stress of report writing holding you back. ecoScribe, making ecological report writing a breeze. Get in contact today.
That was a fun little promo for that. We're going to go on now and take a look and see how Alpha TransForm was actually being used in the product and what the integration was between the two. So let's do that right now.
Hi, Lucas. So we've just had a look at what ecoScribe is. So it's an automated system for capturing data on site and then producing sophisticated reports automatically. So we're going to have a look now how the actual data collection forms are put together. So this is TransForm, isn't it? This is the TransForm form designer.
Yes, so this is where the forms are created.
So talk us through it.
So to begin with, you just start with adding in a question, and that has lots of different types of question, type text, numbers, date times, and you just click one of these buttons and add in a new form type. And then in these questions, you'll have a title which users can see, field names which are used internally, and then you have a bunch of other options here for either visual uses or for functional uses like required fields, read only. And then once you have created some questions, you can start building up pages which don't have any functional use, but they have a lot of kind of visual use. They help to group questions together, so they're not all just in one long list. And then we have data groups as well. And these mean when you're filling out a form, you can add these data groups and you can have as many as you want. So this one in specific is for European protected species licenses. So if a site has 2 licenses, you can add 2 licenses. If it has 12, you can have 12. If it has 200,000, you can have 200,000. So there's no limit to these data groups. And then we can also have a logic in here. So we have an if statement here. So if the field tree access is no, then these 2 questions will appear in the form filler.
I see. Now, just as out of interest, the data groups can be nested as well, can't they? So you can have any amount of depth to them. So you can have repeating sections at the top level, and within each record within there, you can have another data group. So you can have sort of nested repeated sections, which is a really nice feature of TransForm.
Yes, that is correct. You can have data groups and data groups and data groups if you want.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, so we've got the basic setup here. We've got the cosmetics, so things like the pages really help with that, to break the page down. We've got logic in there to show and hide groups of fields depending on field values. I guess you can do validation as well?
Yes, you can.
Great. Okay, so this is the form designs. We've got a form design for each type of report we're generating. That all makes sense. So one of the things that I showed in my video was how we're linking transform data to database records. So we're creating jobs in ecoScribe. They've got a job number, which I think we've called a project ID, and that ID comes from a database table, but we need to link it back to a field in transform. So just show us where that would go in.
Yes, so I'll just pop over to the form filler. And so in setup, the first field that you see is the job ID, which links directly to ecoScribe. And this number will be the job number that's set up in ecoScribe.
Okay. So yeah, I think later on when Ferry records his video, he's going to show us how he uses that to filter form instances that are pulled from Transform into Alpha Anywhere, so that for a particular job in ecoScribe, which is an Alpha Anywhere application, we're looking at form instances that match that job ID. Great. Now the other thing I showed very briefly in my demo was that we're using some AI to generate summaries of data. Can you show us how that's put together?
Yes, so you can make your own custom code in Transform, and here is a code that I got on a button. So it takes in all of this data from the form after you filled it in. It gives it, I've given it this prompt, which will be sent with the data to ChatGPT, which will then generate a report, like a little summary for the report, which will send it back down to the form filler to go into the report at the end, which does require Wi-Fi, so you won't be able to do this offline. And I've got an example in here. So you won't be able to see the prompt as it looks pretty messy, but you press this button here, the prompt is generated. Then you press this generate summary button, and it takes a minute. But you can see below, I've already got one generated from the data that you've inputted previously, and there you go.
Interestingly, although that was the same data that you generated the summary from before, the summary is actually different. And this is where AI's sort of randomness and variability comes into play. So each time you click the button, even though it's the same prompt being sent to ChatGPT to summarize a list of data that's come out of a data group, the result is actually slightly different each time you click it, I guess. It's the same information, but just presented slightly differently. Because AI,
so if there's something that you don't like in one particular summary, then you can just give it a retry.
Great. Now this sort of feature I think is really powerful, because this could be a list of, let's say, 100 properties with bat roosts found in them, but the bat roosts are found in different places in the properties, and that's all recorded in a data group. It would be quite a long-winded exercise to summarize that for a human to do it, but ChatGPT is very good at summarizing things and creating human-readable summaries. So I can see this being a huge time saver to get to speed up the generation of a report and to reduce the amount of human input.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Great, that was really useful. Thanks very much. So just to recap, we looked at the Transform Form Designer, which is in Transform, that you're doing that through the web browser. We had a look at this notion of having an ID or some sort of link that enables us to filter data in Alpha Anywhere to show in ecoScribe, and Ferry will show that later on. And then we've had a look at the AI feature as well. Thanks very much, Lucas.
Cool, thank you.
We're going to go on now and take a look at connecting up Alpha Anywhere with TransForm.
Hi, Ferry. So what we'd like to look at is two things. Firstly, how we're pulling data from Transform form instances through to ecoScribe, and how we're making sure that the right form design and the right form instances are being shown when we click on a job in ecoScribe. And then we'll have a look at the quick link method as well. So how we're getting the form filler into the ecoScribe laptop side, the desktop application, rather than on the mobile. Is that okay?
That's okay, Robin. Sure. Yeah, I can explain that. Yeah.
I can see you got like an example set up there, which is not ecoScribe itself, but it's a demonstration of the technique we're using. Is that right?
That's correct, Robin. Yeah. So you can say this is same like the ecoScribe project list. Okay, so on the left hand side here, this is an Alpha Anywhere UX control. I use a list control here, and I have a project ID column, project name, and project description. And each form will have a button to open forms. This will open the transform forms that link to the project ID. So how we can do that? Before we do anything in the Alpha Anywhere, we need to set up a few things first. The first one, we need to retrieve the API key from TransForm portal, which you can get from Permissions tab. Go to Get API Key, and you can use all or other type of key based on what is your requirement. In this case, I will use all. Then this is the key that you need. Okay, so that's the first step. The second one, you will need to go to the TransForm portal and design a form or a form template. In this case, I have created a demo form with the ID form1. And in this form, I have 3 fields, which is project ID, surveyor name, and survey date. The project ID is the unique field that we will use to link it back to Alpha Anywhere. Okay, so then I will go to Management Console, which have 3 generated forms based on this template. So as you can see here, the first one for John, the project ID is 1. For Adam, the project ID is 1. For Madison, the project ID is 2.
Okay, so
That means,
that's the same as ecoScribe. So in ecoScribe, the database assigns the job number. I think in the video that I recorded, it was 211. But you can have multiple form instances of actually multiple form designs, all linked to that job number. So 211, I think I had 2 instances. And in this example, you've got the same. So you've got 2 form instances, both with that project ID 1. So this mirrors that real world example. So you could have multiple transform form instances, all linking back to a record. So you've used that linking field. So the project number, the project ID is unique in the database, but it can have multiple instances here. So it's like a one-to-many relationship. Okay, I get it. Yep.
Correct. Yeah. So this is how we do it. I will go to Alpha Anywhere, open the UX control, and here on the list 1, which is the project list, if I go to the fields tab here, I have the button to open the forms. And on the click event, we will call get forms JavaScript function. This is the function that we created. So this is not a built-in function. And we will pass in the project ID from the row. Okay. Then on the JavaScript function, this is the get forms function definition. We will call an AJAX callback to call an XBasic function, and the XBasic function name is get forms, and we pass through the project ID, which we get from here. Then we will go to the XBasic function definition. So we switch from the client side into the server side now. We define the project ID variable. We assign it with the project ID value from the client side. So this is now converted into server-side variable. And here I define the form template ID, which is the form ID that we get from the TransForm portal on the designer tab. So the ID for that form is form1. So in this case, I put it into variable name form template ID. Then we need the API key that I described before, and I put it somewhere, but you can imagine how we can set up this. We can put it directly, but it's not safe. So yeah, make sure it's safe.
Yeah, now this is important, isn't it? Just as a little aside here, that the API key, we've put this server side so that it's not visible to somebody who was looking in the browser code or the console. Yeah, so this is all server side. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now, this is the URL or the endpoint that we will call to retrieve the form from TransForm portal. In this case, we will call this endpoint get form instances array for form ID, because we know the specific form ID, and we pass in some extra parameter. The mode is detail, and the field list is project ID. So the mode detail, that means we will retrieve all information from the form. There are another variation for this mode equal summary. but that's not enough for us to filter by the project ID. Okay. The second parameter is the field list. That means we will only retrieve the project ID field. We don't need the other fields, so we only need the project ID. Okay. Then this is the built-in function in Alpha Anywhere, which is very cool. It will interact with the TransForm API. Okay, and this is basically the built-in or the default code provided by Alpha, so you don't need to adjust this. And we can retrieve the result from the API call. We put it into array. I created a new array variable named array data here. Okay, then I created a new array to store the forms that filtered for the project. Okay, now we will check if the array data dot result property exists. If it's yes, then we can check how many forms that link to that project ID. Okay, then we will loop all forms. At this point, it will still display three forms.
Yes, because I see, because you've just pulled back the form, all form instances.
All forms, yeah.
Yeah, that have that form design, the form one form design. Okay, I get it. So at this point, we haven't filtered. We've just pulled them all back.
We haven't filtered.
But this loop is going to do the filtering.
Yeah. So we create another new variable to store the form data for each row. Then we will check, this is the important part, we will check if a field ID named project ID in this form data exists. If yes, we will compare it with the project ID that we defined above, the current selected row. If we found it, then we will push it into the array, okay, the array form instances. At this point, after we finish the loop, we already have the filtered forms instances for the project that we currently selected. Okay. In my example here, I created another new array variable. Then I assign the data into this new array. The reason I do this because this is the way I set up the list column. I have uppercase on the column name, and you can imagine if you want to put some additional data, you can put it here. So it's very flexible. Okay. At the end of the function, we will return a JavaScript code, which will call another function called populate list, and I pass in the JSON data. So I convert the server side variable, the array variable, into a JSON string. Okay. Then if I go to JavaScript function, the populate list, you can see here the first parameter is the list ID. The second parameter is the data, the JSON string. So we get the list control. We know the list control list ID 2, which is here. Then we convert the JSON string into JavaScript array variable. Then we populate list data using that variable. This is the built-in function from Alpha Anywhere.
That's very cool. So we're passing the data back and forth using JSON, and then using a built-in Alpha Anywhere function to actually populate that list on the right-hand side. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, that explains it. So that's exactly what we've got in ecoScribe then. So we've got the different form designs, which are the different types of report data they can capture out on site. Those are linked back to particular jobs. We've got our job number, which is like your project ID there. And that enables us in ecoScribe using exactly the same techniques just to show the right form instances associated with each job that's been booked in. That's terrific.
Yeah.
So how about the quick link button? How does that work?
Okay. The quick link button will open a window, and then it will open the specific transform form. So the user can fill the data directly on the web browser instead of using the mobile app. So here, it's very cool. Okay.
That is cool because that looks exactly like it does on your phone if you're using it on the phone.
Yeah, that's correct, Robin.
Yeah.
So the way we set up this is if I go to the list to controls and go to fields tab, I have a button here, and on the button action on click event, I will call a JavaScript function, the custom function that we built, load quick link. We pass in the form instant ID, which is the unique identifier for the form instant. So this is the primary key of the transform form. Okay. Then the load quick function, the load quick link function here. I think I need to jump back to the control first. I displayed on a window, so you can display it on a panel or on a container or anywhere else. So in this case, I use a window, and we need to set up a placeholder for the iframe. So you need to put a specific or unique ID for the iframe. Then you can set up the width or height for the window for the iframe. Okay. Then the way we call all this or displaying the content is calling a URL. This will call the quick link URL for the transform form. Then we put an extra parameter. This is the default parameter. Then the source is this. This is the important part. So we pass in the form's instance ID. Okay. Then we get the ID of the iframe. Then we just put a source of that iframe with the content from this URL. So that's how we set up the quick link.
I see. And the form, yeah, just to reiterate, the form instance ID, that's the unique, that's not our project ID, that's the unique ID that TransForm generates for each form instance, isn't it? So that it's
correct.
Okay, cool. So that's how it knows which to display. And then you've either got to log in to view it. So it's not available to everybody, but you have to log in, or if you've logged in before, it's fine, sort of thing. And then it will show the data if you're allowed to see it.
Yeah, if you have a correct permission.
If you need the correct permissions. That's fantastic. Thanks, Ferry. Okay, cool. So we've seen how to pull the data through, how to filter it, and now we've seen how the quick link works. Both of those features are vital to the ecoScribe application. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Robin. Cheers.
Well, thanks very much, both of you. The example with QuickLink, I think, was fantastic. If you have not used QuickLink before, there is a webinar I did maybe about a month or two ago. You can find it on the YouTube channel, where I go through the various options that you have in QuickLink. Usually with QuickLink, we think about it as emailing a link to someone or text messaging a link to someone and having them open up a browser. But this method of embedding the form directly into your application is also a really good use for QuickLink. That's explained in the documentation if you would like to take a look at it. All right, so our final video, this wouldn't be ecoScribe unless something was written down at the end. Need to do a report, so we're going to be covering the reporting aspect of it in our next video coming up.
Hi, Lucas. Hi, Ferry.
Hello.
Right, so I forgot to show the report generating its when I did my demo video earlier. So let's just have a look at that, and then we'll explore how we're generating the reports instantly, live in front of the user, and some of the techniques we're using. So first of all, Lucas, let's just have a look at a report generating. We've got job 211 on screen. That's the one I used in my demo. So if you click the report button, let's see what happens next. Okay, so now it's given us a list of templates we can choose from. So we've chosen a template, and there's the report. And the report itself is pretty sophisticated. You've got like a cover page, you've got tables, nicely formatted, nicely laid out, headings. We've got a table of contents, numbered paragraphs, numbered sentences there. We've got bold text. Yeah, it's pretty sophisticated, isn't it? The actual template itself.
It is, yeah.
And you can see it's incorporating the data that was captured on the handset in the data itself. We've also, by the way, got a generate Word document button there. So we'll generate this as a Word doc, download it so that the users could edit it in Word if they needed to. So firstly then, let's have a look at how the template itself is defined. So we've got a feature in ecoScribe where the templates can be listed and then edited. So if you just show us that then, Lucas.
Yep, so this is the where the templates are stored. So if I click on the edit button, then it brings up the basic HTML that the entire template is based off of. And that uses tags, so I can find here somewhere. So for example, survey client will take the data straight from the transform form and plug it into the template, into the HTML. And then we also have these function tags, which will take from JavaScript functions, which are defined separately. If I move over to that page, then it brings up a list of functions that are defined that can be used in this report. We'll click on one of those, and we have that on the side.
I see. So some
Yes.
of the formatting and some of the content it's too complex to do directly in the HTML just using field substitutions. So instead we've written JavaScript functions which take the data, manipulate it in some way, and then return the HTML that goes into the template at the point that we need to access them.
Yes.
Okay, so the basic principle is we're using simple client-side templating, which has been covered off in webinars before. Really useful technique. You essentially get a template and some data, they merge using the client-side templating feature, and you end up with the document. But because we've got some really complex manipulation of the data in here, we've had to write JavaScript functions as well, which does that manipulation. So Ferry, if you can share your screen, how on earth are we making use of well, how are we doing the basic templating first, merging the template and the data, and then how do we handle those JavaScript functions?
Okay, so this is how we merge the data, the template, with the form data from TransForm. So we call this function open. Yeah. Okay, and this is actually the built-in function from Alpha Anywhere, which you can get from the documentation page. So it's very helpful here. You can read the details on this page. Okay, and the way we handle the custom function in the template is you can see here we got a simple function name called fn. This is actually the wrapper for the JavaScript function, and we will create the function on the fly using the function definition that Lucas explained before, and we pass in the data and we find the correct function name and we push it to the client.
That's so cool. So we're storing functions in a database. So the text of a JavaScript function we're storing in a database, and then we're generating those functions on the fly when we need them, so that the client-side template can use those JavaScript functions to help to create the document. That's very, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so I guess those sort of features, the actual JavaScript function features, wouldn't be used by most users, but from our point of view, when we're setting these templates up, that's really helpful, Lucas, because it enables us to do more sophisticated manipulation of data before it ends up in the template.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Well, thanks, you two. So that's how we actually generate the reports. We've got as Lucas just showed on screen, we do actually have a Word button that generates. If they don't need to generate the Word doc, all that's happening actually here is that the client-side templating result, the HTML that results, is just being pushed into a div on screen. That's how it's been shown there on screen, so you get the result. And we're also using a PDF library to turn that HTML into a PDF so they can download the document as a PDF. Thanks, you two. Thanks very much for that, showing off the report generation side.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And what I really liked about that last video was the ability to edit the template from within the application. Although it looked a little bit complicated for an end user. In fact, I've never really seen client-side code exposed as an end user feature. I could definitely see when you're setting up the system being able to change the reports at will without having to republish your application or republish those reports must be extremely useful. So I want to say thanks very much to the Start Software team for putting this together. We will do apologize for the one portion which did not have good audio, but that will be corrected when it comes out on YouTube. So congratulations on the production of ecoScribe. What a very, very cool application. We hope to see you at our next Wednesday webinar. Until then, take care, stay well, and of course, you can always reach us at guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. Bye-bye.